Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. So in today's video, as promised, I'm doing a black metal vinyl collection update. So all of the releases I'm showing today are black metal, or at least the first one is kind of black metal related. It's not purely black metal, but these are just some releases I picked up recently. As I said, I wanted to separate it from the last video so that they don't get too long. So got 4 records to show today, and we'll just get straight into it. So the first one I picked up, this is the new ENSLAVED album entitled, now my entrenched German pronunciation would say Utgard. You know the way I've been trained to speak German, but I think the Norwegian pronunciation may be something different, like Utgard, but anyway, you can see Utgard. This is the first ENSLAVED album I've actually bought in a long time, so obviously this band needs no introduction, a legendary band within the Norwegian scene. Now you see what I mean by this is black metal related, because obviously it's not pure black metal. It's actually, in the beginning, it was what was considered Viking metal, even though it had a proximity to black metal, Norwegian black metal sound, but later on they became more progressive. I'm sure everyone knows the history, but basically, in my opinion, the first 4 albums are legendary, particularly the first 3, so Viking Leader, Veldi, Frost, Eld, and Blodhem. Blodhem I didn't quite like as much as the first 3, but it's still a brilliant album. And then everyone probably knows the story that this band went in an experimental, weird direction at the turn of the millennium. So I'll just be completely honest, because you guys want honest reviews, but I went off this band for a long time, and that was marked by the release of the album MARDUK in 2000. Yeah, Beyond the Within. I just didn't like that album at all. I thought it was overly experimental, for my liking anyway. I mean, some people might have enjoyed it, but I just felt it was disjointed, overly experimental, and a bit of a mess. And I felt like it was part of that, a lot of the bands at the time were being experimental and different for the sake of it, but not necessarily producing music of great quality. That was at least for me. So again, I'm not saying my opinion's the law, but I couldn't stand that MARDUK album. And then after that, I bought Monumention, the next album that came out. It was better than MARDUK, but I still didn't like it. I felt it was just overly experimental. And then I think after that it was Below the Lights, and I said, I give up, you know. So admittedly, I did go off this band for a long time. And then with the release of Rune, they had that single Fusion of Sense and Earth, and that sparked my interest once again. And I thought, yeah, that's actually a pretty good album. I bought that one. But then after that album, as I said, I'd become a bit skeptical, so I didn't buy any albums by this band for a long time. But long story short, as I've got more open-minded in my older age and now have a greater appreciation for progressive and experimental music, I've really enjoyed what I've heard of the last couple of albums, especially the one entitled E. I still want to buy that, it's brilliant. So what do you guys think about the modern albums? Are there any you can recommend? But basically I have the first 4. I sold MARDUK and Monumention, and I've got Rune and now this one. But I actually really like this one. So it seems like maybe it's just my musical taste changing, or the band improving, or a combination of both, but I really like this album. In a nutshell, it's fantastic. So what I like about this is it's a blend of the old and the new ENSLAVED, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So first of all, this album starts with a fittingly Viking atmosphere with some harmonized choral chant vocals and acoustic guitars before the thunderous drumming kicks in. So that's a strong atmospheric start for this album. Sorry, I'm just referring to my notes here because I have a lot to say. As I said, it's a good blend between old and new ENSLAVED. It's like the old, early era of ENSLAVED in terms of the raspy vocals from Grüttler, the blast beat drumming, and the fast riffs. It's very, in that respect, it's very consistent with their earlier albums. It's also similar to the old material in terms of some of the atmospheric keyboards layered over the top of the music, which has always been a big part of ENSLAVED. And also in terms of the deep, dirgy spoken vocals, which sound like a Jotun or, Thor or something in an ancient story. So like that's featured on the song Utgard. Yeah, just brilliant. So a lot of elements from the old ENSLAVED, and it's also, at the same time, it's like the newer ENSLAVED in terms of the clean vocals, which are much more epic and melodic than the dirgy Viking ones from the earlier albums, which were more in the vein of old Satyricon, old Ulva. So those sort of cleaner, more epic vocals they have now. And it's also like the new material in terms of the influences from psychedelic and progressive rock, which the band has been doing increasingly. And as I said, I've got an increased appreciation of that. So yeah, there's some interesting rhythms and experimentation with some electronic elements, which sounds very psychedelic, especially on the track Ur Jotun, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah, but on this album, there's plenty of clean vocals, acoustic guitars, keyboards, and mellow sections for atmosphere, and this is juxtaposed with the fast and aggressive parts. There's so much variety in the different keyboard sounds, ranging from typical black metal keyboards to psychedelic and weird sounds and effects, so I love that. This band is always very creative in that respect. And there's also a lot of really heavy, memorable and epic moments on this album, which conjure powerful images in the head. A good variety of tempos, rhythms and atmospheres, and some really off-the-wall, quirky segments in some songs. So, always something to keep me interested. Yeah, so, although each track has a lot of variety on this album, it's not a mess at all, unlike MARDUK. There's always some common thread or glue holding each song together, but the changes and transitions keep the songs interesting. And when I refer to these powerful images in my head, when I listen to this music, I think of myself standing on a ship looking out to the horizon at sea, or perhaps in Iceland overlooking a valley with a lot of towering fossen, you know, the big waterfalls, majestic Iceland. Even though I know this band is Norwegian, but, you know, the Viking heritage is kind of similar. Yeah, so for me, this is an album that's to be listened to in its entirety. There aren't exactly standout tracks for me, but rather a variety of great moments in each song. But for me, perhaps the most standout track is Jötunn on side 2, which, because of the electronic and psychedelic elements and the epic melodies. All right, so in short, this has reinstated my faith in ENSLAVED, and I would like to purchase some of those newer albums, as I said, so looking forward to doing that. Just show you the cover here, so that's an appropriately, fittingly epic cover, very cool, and kind of artistic back there. So with the vinyl itself, it's pretty cool. It's got that same image of the raven or crow, you know, the bird, whatever it is. Very cool. And they didn't skimp on the packaging either, which is good. This bloody fan is annoying, but I need it because it's boiling in here. So, yep. Yes, as I said. So, yeah, cover, it comes on this nice gatefold, and that's got all of the credits there. And they save something really special for the booklet. It comes with this massive record-sized booklet, so pictures on the front, and all of the lyrics inside. So yeah, I really like this packaging, and the lyrics are nice and readable, all in English, unlike their earlier albums, which were all in Norwegian. Okay, so in a nutshell, as you can tell, I really like this album, and it's made me interested in this band again. And as I said, I want to buy some more of the recent albums like E and so on, and looking forward to their new album, which is coming out after this one. So yeah, as you've gathered, I really like this. This album, I will admit, it doesn't quite give me the chills or goosebumps, but I definitely find it very interesting and an enjoyable listen, and an album which I've strangely found myself coming back to quite a lot. Like, I haven't just listened to it a few times, several times a week actually. There's a lot of music and arrangements packed in, so I think there's something new to discover upon each listen. So I definitely appreciate it. I would say this album, I don't normally give numerical scores, but I'd say this is like an 8 to 8.5 out of 10. So if you like ENSLAVED, and especially the newer progressive stuff, check this out. So ENSLAVED with Utgard. All right, coming up next, if you follow my Instagram and Facebook, some of you will know I got this recently and I've already shown it, but I'm very happy to have this because it was difficult to get for a long time. So I also picked up VINTERLAND with Welcome My Last Chapter. Yep, so you can see here, this is complete with the original artwork. In a previous video of mine, I've actually spoken about this album in great detail, so I will link that video so I don't repeat myself. But essentially, VINTERLAND was a Swedish black metal band. They only released this album, interestingly, in 1995, and then they disbanded, apart from reuniting for a few festival appearances. But essentially, VINTERLAND is very melodic, melancholic Swedish black metal, very much in the vein of Dissection, in my opinion, and perhaps Dawn in certain respects, but in my view, it's a lot more melancholic and depressive, but just so powerful and atmospheric. It's a brilliant listen, so I absolutely love it. Go and listen to this album if you haven't heard it, but you can also watch my linked video to hear a detailed description of this. So yeah, this album, it was just defunct for a long time. No one repressed it or anything. And then last year, there was a huge demand for it. This album used to go for crazy money on the internet and Discogs, you know, like $200, $300 for the vinyl. So they repressed it, thankfully. So it's good for all of us fans. And yeah, I just snapped this up immediately as a massive fan of this band. It really is a masterpiece. I've heard some people say it's a bit overhyped and overrated. And I don't know, I don't agree with that. I think it is a pretty legendary album, but I say to those people, at the very least, it is a damn good album. So definitely worth checking out if you like melodic black metal in the vein of Dissection. So we'll just show you it. By the way, the material for this cover, it's kind of a rough paper material, which is very cool. I really like this artwork. You know, on my CD box set, it's this very bland V with a white background, quite boring, but this is cool. Now, just showing you the contents. Okay, so here is the infamous iconic picture of the band, which is also featured in my box set. And yeah, the collage of band moments and the description of everyone in the band and what they do. And what is really nice about this one is it comes on this absolutely exquisite, stunning purple, or would you say violet colored vinyl. It plays really nicely, it sounds nice. Yeah, so very happy with that. For such an iconic, legendary album, it's nice to have it in a special format like this. So really happy with that. Okay. Yep, so I've already mentioned this in my other video, but some of my favorite tracks are A Castle So Crystal Clear, As I Behold the Dying Sun is perhaps my favorite. And also Wings of Sorrow is a great track. I mean, like, there's no bad songs on this, but they're my three favorites, I would say, especially As I Behold the Dying Sun. Like, it's just so powerfully atmospheric. It's brilliant. Yeah, so I'm sure most of you know this album already, but if you haven't heard it, I definitely recommend it if you're a fan of melodic black metal. And as I said, you can check out my linked video. So very happy to have this in the collection. This is VINTERLAND with Welcome My Last Chapter. By the way, one annoying aspect of this re-release is they rearrange the order of the songs. So, you know, when you're used to the flow of an album with the tracks in a particular order, that kind of threw me off a bit. It's kind of annoying, but still it's nice to have them all compiled on this one nice record. So there you go. All right. And up next, I have two more records to show, but this is something I've never shown on my channel. Some 7-inches. So I'm not really, I think 7-inch records are a cool collector's item, but for me, it's not really good value for money in terms of the amount you pay and the amount of music you get. However, having said that, if it's a band that I really like or an album I really like, I'll definitely pick it up without hesitation, and these two are no exception. So, hey guys, back again. Sorry about that brief intermission. My phone memory ran out once again, so what a surprise. So as I was saying, I picked up two 7-inches. The first was the IMMORTAL 7-inch. So this one, I'm not sure of the name, I'll leave it below, but basically it features 3 tracks. People are probably familiar with this 7-inch. This is one of my favorite black metal bands of all time. You've probably heard me say, or if you don't know, my top 3 black metal bands of all time since the late 90s basically have been Immortal, Dark Throne and Marduk. Probably Marduk being my favorite, as you know. But yeah, this is from the very early days. And just before I show you that, I bought, this was many years ago, I got the Battles in the North CD by Immortal, and this featured 3 bonus tracks, which were Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism intro, and also Unholy Forces of Evil and The Cold Winds of Funeral Dust. Those songs were, of course, on the Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism album, but those 3 tracks, which were featured as bonuses here, I always thought that would be cool to own on record, and now I do. Yeah, on this 7-inch. So, yeah, as I said, it's got those 2 tracks, Unholy Forces of Evil and The Cold Winds of Funeral Dust from Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism, and also this obscure intro, which is called Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. If you haven't heard that, it's just this sort of keyboard and rattling drumstick intro, which invokes the atmosphere of being in Antarctica or in a Norwegian winter at night, like really atmospheric with Abbott's gurgly vocals before kicking on to those 2 heavy dark tracks from Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. So you probably know these songs, so I don't need to say too much. Now I'll just show you this. Yep, so this is the cover. Yep, just the old band logo, and picture of the band at the time, so showing what everyone did. So of course this is when they were a three-piece with Abath Demonaz and Armageddon on drums. Same lineup as Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. And just showing you the disc, it's a picture disc, yep, with the logo on one side and the picture of the band and the personnel details on the back. So very cool. This one plays really nicely and the sound comes out really well. I especially like the fact on vinyl, you know, Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism was a very bass-driven album, so you can really hear the powerful bass when you listen to this, which is great. And yeah, so it's one of those things, I already own it on CD, but you know how it is, like if it's a band that you really like and you're enthusiastic about it, you're going to pick up the collectibles. So that's exactly what I did in this case. Yep, so there it is. Very happy to have this in the collection as a big fan. That's Immortal with, whatever the name of this is, Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. No, it's not. But the name of this 7-inch, yeah. All right. Okay, now, coming up lastly, there's one more 7-inch that I bought. Now, I will say at this point that I've put up a disclaimer saying if you're easily offended by blasphemous imagery or nudity or offensive slogans, it's probably time to stop watching. So you may have guessed what I picked up. And this is, again, it's my favorite black metal band of all time, so I had to get this, really. This is Marduk's infamous demo from 1991 entitled Fuck Me Jesus. Yeah, so this was what started it all for this Swedish black metal band. This came out, it was recorded in 1991, re-released in 1995, and I actually got the CD version many years ago. I've pulled this one out for a reason, but this was the start of their black metal career. So, yes, obviously infamous because of the title and artwork. That's not exactly subtle, is it? And just showing you that there. So it's just the logo, it doesn't have the title, but you get the picture literally. And it also comes on this nice picture disc. So, well, not nice, but you know what I mean. And this one actually plays really well too. Now, the reason I've pulled out the CD, here it says Morgan Hawkinson, the sole original remaining member of Marduk. So, as you know, probably, he's the only consistent member who's been in the band for all of the years, for the band's career. However, at the time when I got the CD, this is like a chapter in history, you see here it says the only two original remaining members of Marduk. So we have Morgan and, of course, Joachim Avgrav, who was the drummer and then later became the drummer and singer on those of the Unlight, and then later became only the singer on Opus Nocturna when he was replaced by Fredrik Andersson. So I just wanted to show you a transition in history. So this was the old version because at the time this came out, Jock was still in the band, but is of course no longer. He was replaced by Legion and then subsequently by Mortis. Okay, but yeah, if you're not familiar with this demo, it's a really good one actually. It's very raw, heavy, dark black metal. And like the debut full length which followed this, Dark Endless, it still takes a strong influence from death metal. So it's very heavy. You can hear it in the riffs. It's heavy, very headbang material. But this one is just raw and obnoxious. So it's fantastic. The songs which are featured on here all went on to be featured on the Dark Endless album. So we have, well, let's talk about the songs. So Departure from the Mortals, The Black, Within the Abyss, those three tracks are all on Dark Endless and fucking excellent songs. I love that. And what rounds off this EP is, of course, the infamous intro, which is Fuck Me Jesus. That's taking the sample from the movie The Exorcist. You know, that infamous scene. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And also, the track to end this EP is the outro, Shut Up and Suffer, which is sort of like a classical piece. And it used to remind me of something like the Nutcracker Suite, but then upon closer listen recently, I realized that was the tune which they later used as the melody for the song Opus Nocturna, the title track for that album. So there you go, a bit of trivia. But yeah, so they pretty much retained, they've just got the credits here and everything. And like I said, these versions, they went on to Dark Endless, but they're just much rawer, but still very heavy and very listenable, not dirty and horrible in a bad way, like everything's still clear enough. It's just raw and aggressive. And what is interesting about this EP is it features the original lineup, so Morgan on guitars, Richard Kalm on bass, Joachim Avgraf on drums, and the original vocalist, Andreas Axelsson, who if you're not familiar with him, he was the very early vocals, even before Jock, obviously. But if you watch the Black Crown videos of when he performed with the band, he was the kind of guy with the mid-length curly black hair and the trickling corpse paint, but he used to really get into it, banging his head. He was a great showman. Don't know what happened to him after Dark Endless. Obviously he left the band, but yeah, great raw shrieking vocals, raw recording, absolutely fantastic. So I'll just give you a look at this one more time. I really like the print job and the color. It came out really nicely, and all those credits there. Yeah, just a great collector's item for a fan like me. Now, on the topic of the title and artwork, like you know, I think this is, bear in mind that this was 1991, so I think if bands release something like this these days, people would sort of roll their eyes and say, oh, that's all so predictable, been there, done that. But this was original at the time, considering it was 1991, the very early stages of the second wave black metal. Black metal was making a very strong and unprecedented statement at that time. So think of it as a, you know, relevant to its time. You know, it was kind of a fitting title. But there you go. Yeah, Marduk, never been one for subtlety, but I'm really happy to have this in the collection as a fan. So Marduk with Fuck Me Jesus. Okay, that's it, guys. So I'm going to leave it there for today. 4 records, 2 of which are 7 inches. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm coming back again soon because I've got a backlog of more new releases which I need to show you. So I'm looking forward to that. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. On that note, I really appreciate all the new subscribers that I've had recently and all of the support that I've got from people. So thanks very much, guys, and I hope you keep watching. So in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.